Okay, I have clock. We will call the county commission meeting to order for January 5th. Rise. Join me. Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have to take care of number one before we can do anything else, I believe. What's the pleasure on number one?
Commissioner, keep everything the same as 2021 on 1 through 5.
Okay, the motion's been made to keep everything the same on number 1 through 5. Any discussion?
We can do that for 1, 2, 4, and 5, but number 3 will have to be the list for 2022. I'm sorry.
Okay. As stated by the county administrator.
Okay, amended as stated by the county administrator. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried.
And then number 3 is the item that I sent around, the suggested date and times of regular meetings.
Motion approved number 3 as stated by the county administrator.
Okay, motion has been made to approve number 3 under number 1. Any discussion on that as stated by the county administrator? On the list that was previously sent, correct?
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, number 2, public comment. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak publicly? Anyone on Zoom that wishes to speak publicly? Anyone on Zoom wish to speak publicly? Okay, number 3, the consent agenda.
Motion approved.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Treecost to approve the consent agenda under number 3. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Number 4, payroll change notices. We have 2.
Motion approved A and B.
Motion has been made to approve A and B under number 4. Any
Effective January 10th. I'm sorry.
effective January 10th, as on the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 5, minutes and/or amended minutes of previous meeting.
Motion approved the minutes. Want me to list
A through C.
A through C, please?
Okay, motion has been made to approve the minutes A through C. Any discussion?
As presented.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, just as presented, that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 6, purchase orders, invoices. A, vendor requisition list of payments.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve number 6A. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I have 10:05. And at 10:05, we have a public hearing regarding the supplemental application for Charles Pointe Economic Opportunity Development District in Harrison County, known as and designated as the Charles Pointe Opportunity Development District, the district, to permit obligations issued by the county commission for funding projects in the district, financing obligations, to have terms of 30 years from the date of issuance of such financing obligations and established December 31st, 2052 as the date on which the district shall terminate. I guess I will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak to this? Okay, is there any? You want to speak, stand and identify yourself for the record, please? Mayor.
Okay, well, I'm Andy Lang, and I've come today to ask a few questions and vet out some concerns and clarity on what this public hearing is all about today. So is this a question and answer, or is this just a comment on my part? And that's,
You can comment on your,
okay, there's no question and
if you're
answer.
for, you either speak for or against it. I believe that's my understanding of this hearing. Is that true? I mean, somebody else.
Yeah, so it's an opportunity for anyone from the public to present any comments that they may have as to what's being proposed. There's no need for commissioners to respond, but you certainly have an option to respond to anything if you'd like to do so.
Tom, have we ever done this before?
This is common for a public hearing, yeah. It's at your discretion as to how you want to address things, as the comments that are made.
Well, I'll present a few questions, and if you choose to answer them, fine. If you don't, just signify, and I'll go on. So my first question, I believe, is the information available to the public was from the November 10th, 2021 agenda from the county, the December 15th, 2021 county commission agenda, and the January 5th, 2022 agenda, which is today. So my question is there any other information available or was made available to the public besides what was on those three agendas? Because I've not been able to find anything else that was available by way of the commission except for what was on those three dates. My first question. And if there is additional information that will be sent to the development office, will it be made to the public and when? I thought that if there's anything that should go to the development office, the West Virginia Development Office I'm referring to, as the documents from the agendas indicate, that all that information would have been made public today, but I've not seen any of that except what's in the two agendas. It's referred to as a supplemental application to the West Virginia Development Office as one of the reports. Also in the past, back in 2005 and I believe 12, there were many third-party financial analysis done. And those were done by, I'm not sure which companies, but today I know the county has hired MediCap to do some of that. Stifel Nicholas and Company do some of that. I have not been able to find any reports from them at all. I'm assuming that information will be generated and sent to the development office. But once again, I thought that would have been part of this public hearing, but I've been unable to find anything anywhere online. I've asked around, I can't find anything. So my question is, has any of this been updated? Will any of this be made available? Do I need to how much FOIA, the development office, FOIA the county, as that comes in, how do I get my hands on that?
Mayor, anything that comes into the county commission office, feel free to, anything we receive, you also can receive, and any citizen can. So anything that we receive, please feel free to reach out to the county administrator, and any information you have to give to him or anyone else, Laura, please feel free to do so. There's no secrets here.
All right. The article from yesterday in the Exponent Telegram, was Mr. Amon was quoted in, refers to finance or refinancing both the excess levy sales tax bonds and the tax increment property tax bonds. So I'm assuming that if I'm correct on what documents I've read, that we were only discussing this public hearing is only about the excess levy / sales tax bonds. Is that correct?
Yes.
Just want to make sure this has no effect on the tax increment property bonds. This hearing does these documents. Is that correct? Sure. All right. So my question then, So next question is, will there be additional funds borrowed on the new bonds over whatever it takes to pay off the existing bonds? Will these funds be used for additional development? And if so, what is the planned development? I couldn't find anything about that. And not having exact numbers, I believe in the past that bond proceeds were used to make interest payments on the current bonds. And I'm just asking if that's the plan now. If we're going to refinance the bonds, the county's going to allow that to be done. And proceeds from those bonds will be used to pay additional interest on those bonds. It's kind of like borrowing money on a house and using the funds that you borrowed the money on the house to make the payment on the house instead of doing it yourself. But that's my question, if that's going to be happening.
So if you all want to address any of those, you all probably ought to do them one at a time, or we're going to lose track of them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how fast to go. So we've answered the question about the exploded telegram. I'm okay with that. But the next question I've got is, the property tax bonds funds have been used to pay interest on the current bonds. Is that the plan to be done again? And also, is there a reserve fund in place? And if it is, has it been fully funded? I'm just curious how if that's what the plan is to use bond proceeds to make interest payments on the bonds. That's been done in the past.
You all are wanting me to address anything.
Would you
You're gonna have to
mind?
ask me to do that.
Would you mind doing that?
So this particular, what's under consideration today is just relating to the EODD. And there's no financing proposal that's associated with this right now that's being presented. And so really the sole question here that's up for consideration for the public hearing is the county, when they created the EODD, they had put in place a self-imposed 30-year limit on the term of any bonds that would be issued. So 30 years from the time that the district was created. That's not something that is required by law. And there was no termination date, or there is currently no termination date for the district under law or the project plan that was approved by the county. So really what's up for consideration is the commission submitting an application to the development office that would request that the self-imposed 30-year term limit on the bonds be removed, which would then leave you with what's provided under law, which would be you could issue bonds that would have a term that would extend 30 years from the issue date. So that would allow the county, if they were to issue bonds, let's say this year, to have bonds that would extend beyond the 2042 to perhaps 2052. The other part of what's being submitted to the development office is, since there is no current termination date for the district, to create a termination date, which would be December 31, 2052. And that would be kind of a compromise, if you will, since we are asking for an additional 10 years on the bond term to then have an actual termination date for the district. As far as what might be considered for refinancing the bonds, that's really a separate matter that will presumably be taken up later this year by the commission. Steve Nicklaus has been hired by the commission to be the underwriter, replacement agent for those bonds, and UniCap has been hired to prepare revenue studies. And all that work is being done right now. It's in process. And so when that work is completed and there is an actual financing proposal, that will be brought forward to the commission and considered at that time. But we're really a little bit premature for that right now.
This is just the first step in getting to that. Correct?
Yes, pretty much, yes.
Just to set a date.
It would,
with it.
because we need to know, the county needs to know what parameters to work within for Stiefel and UniCap whether they can do projections for that additional 10 years or structure bonds for additional 10 years. They need to know what to structure around. And so this is the first part that allows them to know what to structure around.
And at that time, you might be able to answer the questions that Mayor Lang is.
All that will be, when there is a financing proposal, it will be fully presented and laid out and discussed.
So the only thing we're doing today, Mayor Lang, is approving a submission to allow the issuing of the bonds and to establish a termination date of December 31st, 2022.
For what?
52.
52, I'm sorry.
For what bonds?
So this would just be relating to the district generally,
That's not what this
rather
says.
than any particular bonds.
You talked about the numbers. 17 million, 12 million, 36 million.
There is a discussion about what bonds are currently outstanding.
That's why I
That's
asked,
more by way of background information.
what bonds are these bonds going to be asked to be taken out for 30 years?
That could be part of the proposal that's ultimately presented to the commission.
I guess I'm confused. We issued the bonds once first and gave it 30 years.
Yes,
Then we issued bonds again for Menards and paid off and combined the previous bonds and kept the same 30 years.
yes.
Why did you all not ask for a new bond at 30 years instead of tying it to the old one?
At that time, it wasn't really considered necessary to do that with
Change.
what has changed.
Yeah.
It certainly would be easier if there were to be an additional project that would be considered and to refinance the existing bonds for the entities that would be looking to purchase them. It's an easier credit decision if they do have if you do have the ability to extend the term.
So if I understand this, and I'll just use an example, in 5 years from now, there's another project that can operate off excise tax. If we agree to this and the state agrees to this, you can combine everything again and get a new 30 years. That's what you're asking us to do in the state.
It would be each year that would pass from this year going forward would reduce that 30 years down by 1 year.
I'm
So
just saying
so
you're
in
asking
5
for
years,
5 years from now, you ask for new money. for
in
a new
5
project.
years, if there were new money or to refinance the current bonds, those could go out 25 years from that point in time, rather than 30 years.
Why?
Because the commission, as a part of the proposal, is proposing to establish a December 31, 2052 termination date for the district. And you can't have a bond term that extends beyond the termination date of the district.
But we said the district doesn't have a date the way it was set up that it ends. As I understand, we set up a $400 million district and he's allowed to go borrow against it. And every time he borrows against it, it's a 30-year term. Is that not correct? And he can borrow multiple times.
Not the way that the commission had established the district. That would be permitted by law. But the county and the way that it established the district did not go as far as what the law would permit.
So the county needs to change what it approved.
Yes,
And when are we going to do that?
that's what's under consideration right here. So the application that's being submitted to the development office would make that very request. And then if the development office approves it, it would come back to the county. And then the county would take, presumably, if it's inclined to do so, official action to remove the self-imposed 30-year limit on the bonds and established a termination date in 2052 for the district.
I guess where I don't understand, Tommy, is that if we do this, and again, you guys said that there was 400 million when we started this. 10 years from now, or 15 years from now, Jamie's still working on this, or he wants to borrow another $100 million in excise tax. Why would he not get 30 years from that point?
Because
Why would we cut him off so that he just can't keep going and using excise tax for the next 30 years to develop that?
I mean, that's a difficult, there's a lot of policy issues wrapped up around that. Because, you know, we are using the state's money. So we're going to the state and saying, hey, you know, when we went to you all and got this originally approved, we told you we were going to have a 30-year limit on our bond term. So no bonds could extend beyond 2042. So now we're going back to them and saying, okay, we want to change that. And we want to have the ability to do 30-year bonds, remove that limitation. But the state is probably going to have a hard time approving that and allowing the county to go on indefinitely issuing 30-year bonds in perpetuity, because that is tying up the state's money. So it's a bit of a compromise that the county is offering to the state as an incentive for them to approve this.
So going forward, Jamie will never be able to hit that $400 million back.
It depends on how, if the district develops rapidly and there's a need for those funds and the revenues of the district at that time justify that kind of the sizing of the bonds, they could keep financing those needs. But with each passing year, the term of those bonds would be reduced by 1 year. So the $400 million is an unlikely number to.
I understand that it's a number that's out there.
Right.
I'm just using that as, that's the potential, but we're saying we're never going to get there because, and I guess what I don't totally know why is that we took the original one, then we took the second one, combined them, didn't extend it to another out to 30 years, didn't ask the state to look at it. Now we're asking the state to consider 30 years on a new bond issue, but we don't know how much.
Right now, no, we don't know how much the bond issue would be.
So in the public hearing here today, all we're doing is asking for the public, aka that's affected, just to say, we approve them to take it out for 30 years, and it could be $200 million, just as an example, or it could be 100 million.
Yeah, so if anyone were to want to comment on something, it would be the policy issue of whether they feel like it would be a wise thing for the county to do for the district, not for any particular bonds that are currently outstanding or any future financing proposal.
And do you think we gave the public the ability to determine that?
Yes. It's in the, if nothing else, it's in the legal ad that was published.
So I should have got my attorney to look at it, to explain it to me. We're getting closer to what I think the public should know. I'm just trying to understand how the public would have known all what we're saying.
So what was placed of record for people to review, the legal ad said that someone could come and look at the application if they wanted to do that. And so there is an application. It lays out what we're discussing. And if they wanted to review that, they can do so, and that's what would be submitted to the development office. And
This was
all these-
explained prior to
all these
today.
different
to the commission.
considerations about financing proposals and the current outstanding bonds and what might be proposed in the future are really not relevant to that. What's really really just a policy consideration as to whether the county commission, whether someone would want to make a comment about whether they feel like the county should be able to issue 30-year bonds from today as opposed to 20-year bonds, and impose a limit on the district that it created of 30 years from today. It's just solely focused on those two issues.
And when did you guys,
I'm sorry.
Tom, when did you come before the commission and discuss just this 30-day issue? Or 30-year issue? We talked about
Yeah,
expanding, we talked about loaning more money. We talked about everything, but I
those
think
were
if
all
I look
issues.
at the minutes, we never drilled
Those
down
were all
into this
issues
30
that you were focused on. That's not what I was talking about.
So you're
I
just
tried to
30
address
years.
the issues that you were bringing up, but my focus of the work session discussion, and the county has already adopted an initial resolution in mid to early December that put this issue out there, that authorized the public hearing to be set and for the legal ad to be published, and approved the form of the legal ad, which was all reviewed by your attorney. So this was all the proposal leading up from the last 2 months. There's nothing new about this.
Senator, would you like to?
I just want to speak to the commissioner. I think.
You care, you're okay, Tommy?
I can.
Well,
I don't have any more questions, Mr.
And I just want to say, Commissioner, I'm the chairman of the EODD, which is charged with kind of doing the best we can. Some board members here to keep an eye on all of this financing going on. To Mayor Lang, I wanted to answer a couple of your questions, Mayor. All those financial statements for the EODD, which is what oversees the bonds, are included in the county's financial statements. So they're public record every year. We file as a board with the EODD and the county commission. They have, I think, through June of 2021, and then monthly statements after that for the EODD. There's nothing on it except what is being paid to do the excavation up there, creating that big retail space that's going to come to fruition here real soon, and hopefully bring lots of tax money to Bridgeport as they do, and a lot of jobs for our folks here in the county. I just want to say that what Mr. Raymond's trying to say here is that we're considering a 10-month extension so we can consider financing options for the bonds in the future. I hope we use the whole 400 million, Commissioner. When we did this, when I sat up there, we put 30 years on it so that the developer would have to come back to the commission to be able to do any new development that would go beyond that initial 30 years. And that's why we put that in there kind of artificially. I guess everybody's gone that was with me up there, so nobody else will remember that. But for them to come back and do any kind of financing, they'll have to come back and go through this entire process again. They'll have to come before the commission for approval. There'll be public hearings. And then if they come up with any, refinancing new projects, and there are a couple, and we've talked about them, and you know that. And you know that there's some really good projects that are coming, will bring even more jobs to Harrison County and more central West Virginia. We want to make sure those happen. I could say a little more, but I wanted to just answer Mayor Lang's question. I think certainly they're considering, all kinds of projects, all kinds of perhaps some additional use of the TIF bonds. But I don't think anybody's there yet. And I guess it'll come up in the future again. I would want to just add one more thing that I could give a whole presentation. I don't think it's necessary. We're just extending the 10 years here. It'll be pretty simple. I spoke to the West Virginia Economic Development Authority. I think to quote the representative down there, he said this is a no-brainer. He did mention some of the things Mr. Raymond mentioned, that they thought that maybe legislation all over the state. Everybody wants one of these tips. Harrison County is one of 3 counties that has. Ohio and Mon are the other 2. Ohio has extended their bonds on numerous occasions. The state executive, the governor's side of the government, is wondering if maybe they should have put a termination date on these districts, because again, up in Ohio County, they've refinanced, done new projects, and anybody goes up there and looks and see what they've built up there. We want to build that here while we still have time, but you know, the 30-year termination date, I don't like it. I'd like to leave it open, because we're getting to keep money from, you know, from tourists and everybody who comes through here and spends money and creates this excise tax increment without indebting any of the county citizens or really anybody in West Virginia. We've just guaranteed them the sales tax increment, the extra sales tax that this development can take. It's a great opportunity for us. It's a great opportunity for the citizens of the state and particularly Harrison County. And it's just a good idea. But Mayor Lang, if I didn't answer any of your questions, I may have to ask Mr. Amon or somebody else, but I think I answered all yours, did I?
I believe so. I believe all my questions are
Thank
answered.
you.
My last
Good
comment.
questions.
Pardon me?
Those are good questions.
Okay, well, and maybe I am a little bit ahead of the game when it comes to asking these questions about the bonds and extra monies that will be borrowed on the bonds, and will the bond money proceeds be used to make interest payments on the bonds? If that's going to come at a later date and it has to be approved by the commission before any of that does, there'll be other public hearings, that's fine. And once again, I'll say I'm not against new development. I'm not against Charles Pointe at all. I'm just concerned that informed government leaders, the public, and everybody is, you know, has visibility to all this to make sure we're all doing the right thing. But once again, this is another 30 years, way beyond probably a lot of us, including myself, won't be in this room or maybe on this earth. I don't know. But just to make sure we're doing the right thing. I always try to think of everything today as what we're doing for ourselves today, but how it's going to affect generations, many generations in the future. And I just want to be sure we're doing the right thing. You know, so thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Mayor.
I hope I'm still there. I hope I'm still there.
Okay, anything else concerning the public hearing?
Make a motion to send the application to the
Mike wants to, no, we're not, we'll vote on that later. I think that's.
Mike Jenkins with Harrison County Economic Development Authority and also Carpenters Union. I want to go on record to say this project has always been one I've been involved in indirectly, putting our workers to get jobs. There's a lot of jobs that's been created on Charles Point over the years, hopefully a lot more to come. And I would like to see local people working. As I went up there yesterday, had lunch at Buffalo Wild Wings with a lot of people making feeding their families from working up there. So it's a good project. Don't know about financing and bonds and stuff like that, like Mayor Lang and some of the other people in the room. But as far as local citizens working, it's a good project.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike.
As it is later on in the
Jim.
agenda to vote on.
It's in the line.
Okay. Identify yourself, please.
I am Jim Christie. Full disclosure, the developers of Charles Point are clients of mine. I just wanted to kind of give some history. 32 years ago, I was the director of the Governor's Office of Community and Industrial Development. Today, that office is called the Secretary of Commerce. And at that time, my job was to help generate economic development throughout the state of West Virginia. The problem that I had at that time was that just months before I took office, the state had lost over $670 million in investment money. And the governor's program for loaning money to entice people to come to the state had been totally depleted. So at that time, I had maybe $1 million to be able to use to go out and try to develop business in the state of West Virginia. And it was very, very difficult. In fact, it was impossible because $1 million was really, even then, was not very much money. Since that time, the state legislature has created these TIP programs, and particularly the excise sales tax TIP, that has been very instrumental in growth, at least the northern part of the state of West Virginia. And as Senator Romano said, there's only 3 counties who've taken advantage of that, and that's Ohio, Mon, and Harrison. And if you look at those 3 counties, you will see that those are the bright spots in the state of West Virginia where there's a lot of economic development. And so what this opportunity, this particular act is really beneficial to not only the city of Bridgeport, of which I was mayor for 8 years, and which during my term, we were able to benefit greatly from the growth, not only from Charles Point, but also from adjacent property and development that has occurred around Charles Point. So I know the advantages of what this legislation will do. Extending this 10 years will provide 10 years of this excise money that will stay in the city of Bridgeport, in the district, will be used for public infrastructure, can only be used for that purpose, and will benefit not only Bridgeport, but the surrounding areas of Bridgeport and even the whole county. So I just stand up to express my support for this extension. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Identify yourself for the record, please.
My name is Rob Stewart. I'm Director of Planning and Development for Genesis Partners, and I represent the Charles Point development. I've been involved in the development since 1998 or whenever the whole idea came up, so it's been 20-some years. I've seen a lot of public and private partnerships come together, this being one of them, to really create a great development out there. It's great for the region, it's great for the county, it's great for the citizens. So I'm here to state that the Genesis Partners team strongly supports this first supplemental application. To commend the project plan, and as we understand it, that would extend financing opportunities that could terminate in the district December 31st, 2052. And that's the only change to the original project plan. I made a couple of notes from the original project plan, which I'm not sure how many people were even here at that time, but it was in 2011. And directly out of that is an excerpt that says, Charles Point, 1,700 acre mixed multi-use development is committed to providing residents and businesses which locate within a quality of life and an environment for sustainable, healthy communities. He goes on to state that the success of Charles Point, now and in the future, is based on public-private partnerships, which allow for maximizing financial benefits of the development. Maximize the economic opportunities for the development, the region and the state, the approval and the successful creation of Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District would leverage significant private sector development to exclusively improve public facilities and infrastructure. The project plan, as originally approved, was, as Mayor Christie has mentioned, is for public infrastructure and public improvements. That could be masquerading in infrastructure, education facilities, conference, convention, civic complex, cultural centers, amphitheater complex, health and wellness senior, child care complex, parks and open space, all public benefits, all amenities that attract people to our area. So how have we done? That was 2011. To date, there's been $72.8 million of public infrastructure improvements within the district. There's been 107 acres of land made available at no cost to the municipality for public facilities, including Bridgeport Conference Center, or Bridgeport Civic Multi-Use Facility, and the Bridgeport Recreation Complex, the Bridge. Tremendous facilities, great private public partnerships. As a result of those investments, $221.1 million of building construction has been initiated today. Been 425 residential units and approximately 800,000 square feet of commercial and other non-residential uses. It's a 1,700 acre development. It's approved, it's entitled for 2,300 residential units and 3.1 million square feet of non-commercial uses. So the numbers I just gave you represent about 26% of where we are versus what we're allowed to do out there and we're entitled to do. Job wise, I believe the 2021 county annual report goes to the West Virginia Development Office. Reported 2,200 jobs created, 800 direct, 1,400 indirect. We anticipate job numbers to jump dramatically with new development that we currently have on the horizon. And what I just described there engulfs about 450 acres of the 1,700 acre master plan. So what we're doing here is big. It's there's nothing this size, a master plan this size in the state of West Virginia. There just isn't, and it does take time. And any opportunity we may have to extend that time to capture more public funding to assist with this, we should do. Some of the things we have upcoming, and sort of an update, the Charles Pointe Crossing project, site work substantially complete. That wasn't a small project. It was 4 million cubic yards of material removed, and we put in about 3/4 mile of access roadway and utilities to create 67 acres for development, new excise tax generating uses, and it will accommodate about 650,000 square feet of users. Of course, the big talk, Menards, takes up about 240,000 square feet of that. That's a large anchor. Just speaking with them yesterday, they've indicated coming soon signs will be on site soon, and there'll be some press releases by Menards soon as well. They've indicated us construction start as soon as the weather breaks this year. The remaining 410,000 square feet, we're actively marketing. There's great interest. We've engaged C.B. Richard Ellis, nationally and internationally recognized as brokers for that property. Tremendous amount of interest, and we've been talking to several people on filling the rest of that up. So that's a very positive. And for the rest of the development, we're in discussion with some other commercial type users in other areas of the development. So there's other projects coming in addition to the Charles Pointe Crossing. We're very excited. Just in closing, we're proud of the successes of Charles Pointe and its public-private partnerships today. But we are most excited about the continued success and new opportunities ahead. And again, we support the efforts here at the public here. Thank you.
Thank you.
If this takes 1 or 2 years to come to let the state approve and everybody agrees, is the 52 date still good? Or is it gonna be the date that we issued and that date will get pushed out, 30 years will start?
It'll be December 31, 2052 is going to be our.
No matter how long it takes to accomplish it.
Yes. If you guys want to change that, it's not too late.
You have a copy of the supplement application
Yes,
that I could have?
yeah,
And the amended project plan?
it's kind of one and the same. I just to speak to that. the discussions that I had with Todd Booker at the West Virginia Department of Economic Development, who's a person that is looked to by higher level cabinet positions within state government as being kind of the subject matter expert in this area, because he's worked with these TIFs. He's been around since the inception of this program, both the excise tax and the property tax. You know, they give him a lot of, what he has to say is afforded a lot of weight in state government. And, you know, the idea of leaving this open-ended, I was getting a lot of pushback to that. And he was talking in terms of 5, 6 years, 7 years. I was able, I think, to get him comfortable with the 10-year extension. And when, you know, when he talks to Mitch Carmichael and Mike Graney and others, and especially the tax department, I mean, the tax department, their views on encumbering state dollars, which is what this is, the tax department has a lot of sway in that area. I really do think we have a hard time trying to get this through with more than asking for more than 10 years. I can tell you that, as mentioned, Ohio County, they've had the district that's been in existence the longest. They've got about $148 million in bonds outstanding. They went to increase the size of their district in 2013. And they were at 300 acres and wanted to add 200 acres. And at that time, the development office and the legislature, that required a legislative amendment that was passed and approved, that they put a term similar to Harrison County, Ohio County at that time, had no set termination date for their district. And as a condition, or I don't know about condition, but I can tell you that when that additional acreage was approved, the law was changed to put a hard 2044 termination date in place for them, which at that time was a 10-year extension for Ohio County. So that's some of the precedent here. And so that was, I think, kind of guiding some of the discussion I had with Todd, and kind of what went into the formulation of this proposal that's up for consideration now, just by way of additional background.
I guess, and I'll direct this to you and Mike, but I don't understand why we have pigeonholed ourselves into this 30-year one-time bite at the apple. So what you're, and as I understand, we did the first tax scoring and we took and combined the second.
Yeah.
Now we want to take it out another 10 years. I understand that. If he wants more money, is that a new bond issuance? Or does that get combined into the existing bond?
That's part of what Stiefel is considering in their discussions with the existing holders. And there's a lot of structuring issues that go into that decision and market factors. So that really is not a resolved issue right now. It could be a separate series of bonds. It could be added on to the existing bonds. In all likelihood, the discussions thus far have been that it would be a separate series of bonds, perhaps with a different purchaser. So, you know, some of this, it may be that the existing bonds get another 2 years and the new series gets a full 30 years. That's all going to be part of the give and take and the discussions with what the market is willing to accept here.
Well, I just want to make sure that when we do this, it allows that we're not rolling loans after loan after loan after loan into the same bonds and keep borrowing against it, that every project as it stands on its own.
If the county wants to do that, I mean, that is something that we can do, that we can, you guys can give direction to the underwriter that that's something that you want to be structured in. That way you can keep track of what's out there. And, as far as continuing to roll these forward, that's one of the reasons why we put that 2052 termination date. That would preclude rolling forward and refinancing in perpetuity. The other consideration there is these bonds would be in all likelihood tax exempt bonds. And there are rules for tax exempt bonds that have to do with the remaining useful life of the assets being financed versus the remaining term of the bonds.
Correct.
So if those two get too far apart, then you have problems with doing tax exempt bonds. So that's another consideration that's part of all this.
So what do we have to do to allow in the future that Genesis comes with a excise tax request, if does the state will allow us to issue a separate 30-year bond from this one?
So at that point in time, the state is out of those considerations. Because the county would be operating within the confines of its current project plan to execute the remainder of the development, and then it would just be up to the county as to whether you wanted to issue another series of bonds for another project.
And instead of combining,
Correct.
Which right now we're getting ready to go into bond C. So what David's saying is they would all be bond A.
Yeah, so the what's out there now, if we extend it 10 years, which may or may not be what we do, it may not be necessary to go out that far. I would contend that it's probably not. If we're not going to push a new project, if there's a new project and we're not wrapping that into the existing bonds, probably no need to extend the existing bonds out 10 years. But certainly the new project, if there is one, would take advantage of the additional 10 years. And then in that way, the existing bonds that are now being refinanced, you can keep track. I mean, at that point.
listen, I'm all for 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, he's got a project that the state's still willing to let this happen. And he gets another 30-year bite at the apple. I don't care. It's just this constant meshing of ifs to where we're taking this one, paying this one, paying this one. I'd like to keep them separated, so at least we know how the performance is going. And then when we approve something, we know exactly that it's not taking a little bit of this one or a little bit of that one to make it work, but it works and stands on its own. That's how I like to see it. Can't say for the other two, but
No, I agree. I agree
think
with
the
that.
project should be able to stand on its own.
I agree with you, David, because remember, and that, it really doesn't make a hill of beans what we say up here. The bottom line is that it's got to go in front of the development authority. And if the bond people don't approve it, then it really doesn't matter because they're the
Yeah.
only ones at risk, Tom.
I can
We're
tell
not
you-
at risk. The development authority is not at risk. The bond holders are at risk.
Yeah,
So the fact that we're talking about this today doesn't mean a hill of beans if these people aren't going to invest in the bonds, and they're the people with the money. We have no money invested in this. We have no money losing in this. We can't lose any money in this, and that's the bottom line, correct?
Yes,
But the bond people that reissue these bonds, A, B, and C, or new A, they can lose their tail if they haven't done their homework.
I
And they're money people, correct, Tommy?
yes,
And they're here to make money.
yes.
Okay, so really, it doesn't matter if I say thumbs up on all of them or not. If these money people that make a living making money don't agree with my thumbs up, we don't get it anyway.
That's correct.
All right.
The thing that's worth building off of what Commissioner Treecost is saying there, it's a good point and an underlying theme for all of this, which is that we're only marketing these bonds to very sophisticated investors.
Because they don't care about White Oaks, Charles Point, the airport, or the bridge. They care about making freaking money.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
And we just happen to be reaping the benefits of development land, job opportunity out the wazoo. We have a job problem here. We can't get people to work. So we have a unique problem here in Harrison County that the rest of the state would love to have.
Those are all very good points.
All right, Madam President, is there anything else?
So, but just to complete that thought, these, we're not, real estate development puts you in basically a high yield environment for investors. So that means that Stifel is not going to go out and market these bonds to mom and pop investors, small investors, us. There's a group of bond funds out there that have billions of dollars that
Say that
all-
again, Tommy.
all they
People
do-
that have billions of dollars are giving us a thumb up, whether we say, once we say yes.
so
Okay.
so what I'm saying there is these investors are very, very sophisticated. All they do is look at deals like this. And they will tell us whether we can,
They're gonna
they're willing
stick
to,
it, tell us to
whether
stick it
whether
if
they're
they're not
willing
gonna
to
make money.
finance it or not.
All right, thank you. Madam President, anything else?
Well, is there anyone else, is there anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak to this? Hearing none, would we like to move 14 up to the next
Please,
action item?
please.
Okay. Number 14 on the agenda, we will move up. Let's review, discuss, and consider to act upon proposed resolution approving an application regarding the proposed amendment of the project plan. I think I've read all this before. Do I need to read it completely?
I can read it or.
No, that's okay. I can keep reading it. I can keep going.
Can we formally close the hearing?
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm
that's-
sorry.
So we
Thank
have
you. Thank you.
Clear break.
Motion to clear.
Sorry.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, we will close the public hearing on this matter and move to item 14, which is review, discuss, consider to act upon a to have years from the date of issuance of such financing obligations and establish December 31st, 2052 as the date on which the TIF district shall terminate, and approving the submission of the application to the West Virginia Department of Economic Development.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, number 7, exoneration corrective tickets, joint property applications. We have none. Correct?
We have none.
Okay. Number 8, consideration of approval of a project fund requisition for the payment of costs associated with the project to be financed from proceeds of Series 2019 bonds issued for Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District, Series 2015 A and B Development District Number 3, White Oak Project Number 2, and Series 2008A, Charles Point Number 2, North Land Bay Improvements. We have 3 under there, A through C.
Motion approved, A through C.
Motion has been made to approve number 8, A through C. Any discussion? Hearing none, what's the pleasure?
Motion approved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Number 9, consideration of approval of project fund requisitions for the payment of costs associated with the General Services Administration Building Project to be financed from proceeds of a Series 2020 bonds issued for the Harrison County Building Commission, A and B.
Motion approved, A and B Pursuing Associates for $51,850, and Right Fund Construction for $804,524.33, please.
A motion has been made to approve number 8, A and B as stated by Commissioner Treecost. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carried. Number 10, review, discuss, consider monthly minutes, financial information from various boards, committees, and public service districts. It's A, UDSD. Minutes.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve number 10A. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Number 11, review, discuss, consider resolution authorizing the application of funds from the West Virginia Justice and Community Services.
This is actually for Gary's new peer recovery person that they're, I believe you're in.
Will you identify yourself for the record? Sorry.
Sure, I'm Michelle Fontaine, Grants Department.
Okay.
It's actually, we've already applied for, this is actually the receipt of the money, accepting the funds.
Okay.
It's $60,000. It's a 22-month program. And I believe that the application for resumes was in the paper.
Get in today.
So,
So do we need to authorize this for you, Michelle?
yeah, just to accept. the
Motion to
funds.
authorize, please.
Just to accept the funds.
Yep.
Okay. Motion to authorize and accept the funds under number 11. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carried. Number 12, review, discuss, consider resolution to preserve our coal mining heritage.
Motion to approve first preserving our coal mining heritage.
And signing the resolution.
Signing president by the president.
It's actually all three commissioners.
Okay,
please.
cool. All three commissioners.
Okay, motion's been made to approve number 12 and affix all the commission signatures. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 13, review, discuss, acknowledge property tax modernization constitutional amendment in November 2022 general election.
Motion to authorize.
I believe Rocky's here. Would you like to say a word or two about it?
Yeah, I've talked to, I think I've talked to all of them individually on this. It's the whole resolution is short and sweet. And if you all know, when there's a short and sweet bill, it's pretty open-ended, and there's no plan here. I know there was the commissioners in Berkeley County, I believe, they had Senator Trump and Rucker and all the delegates there, and they had a meeting toward this. And at that time, Mike could tell more, but at that time, I know Senator Trump had told the commission there that they were working on an amendment. Right now, we put together numbers, but what we're saying is included in this is what we're looking at and saying. There's not been an amendment that says exactly what is included here, you know, when it goes to a voter.
We just don't know what they're going to do.
Right, when it goes to the voter, that voter may believe that
They're not gonna have to pay their
this
personal
is going to
property
take
tax.
away personal property vehicle tax, but it doesn't actually say that. It doesn't actually have a plan for that. There's no plan, correct? There's no plan yet for what they want to do and how they're going to replace these tax dollars. In Harrison County, what we have run so far, and again, it's approximate on what we understand as being in there, and we're talking a $23 million tax loss. Kanawha County's is $53 million tax loss. And this is, you know, we did not do the percentage, but I think each county is looking at anywhere from 18 to maybe 30% tax dollar loss at this point. And, you know, I don't know that it's time to stop it now because we've had 4 years to do this. You know, SJR 7, we were a stakeholder and we were working toward it. We had some discrepancies in the numbers. And then all of a sudden they came with Senate Resolution 8 and that fell through. and it didn't work out. So this right here is basically asking people to vote your authority over for the legislators to do what they think is right, and I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but.
It's taking it from the local government and giving it. to the
Right,
state.
and we don't know, it's on a fast track to pass at this point. And so we really need to, talk to people and let them understand. But I think the main course that we need to do as county government is we need to be with the legislators in order to be stakeholders and in these meetings on how they're going to.
Because that's part of the issue. We haven't been made part of. it.
Right, and when we were at the round table in Lewis County, you can remember there, they were asking us, the two freshman delegates from, I think they were both from Lewis County, correct?
Well, she was.
They were asking us what our plan was. Our plan is stop this stuff,
Right.
because it doesn't make sense right now, but I don't know if Mike can elaborate on anything more that we can possibly do.
Well, first of all, let me say, I'm for the elimination of personal property tax, but with the replacement with the net income based tax on the corporations and out-of-state corporations are going to benefit from it. What's going to happen is, and we all know it, they're going to dangle the motor vehicle tax in front of the taxpayer and say, you want to get rid of the motor vehicle tax, go for this constitutional amendment. But it's a very small part of the taxes that they're going to take away, not only from the county commission, but from the public school system. I mean, those percentages that the assessor gave you apply to the public school system too, because they get, 72% of it. I mean, that's what funds our public schools. People aren't going to realize that. They're not going to realize that funds are, in Harrison County, funds are volunteer fire departments. Funds are sheriff's department. Funds are senior centers. All these services that they count on, every day, and they just take for granted, those are what you're going to have to cut. And, quite frankly, and I told, the leadership, and this bill's come up several times, we were able to beat it in prior years, is that it will also bankrupt a certain percentage of our counties. Now, not Harrison County, we're fortunate here. We have enough money, we'll survive, we have to draw back on services, there's no doubt. But they will bankrupt some of these counties, probably a couple of them in my district that are teeter-tottering on bankruptcy every year. Who, Weir County has I think it's Weir County has a $2 million regional tax bill that is in arrears that they can't pay. They're not making any payments on it. Now, if all the counties don't pay their regional tax bill, what's going to happen to the regional jail system, which is teeter-tottering on the brink of bankruptcy anyways, because they're not able to pay their monthly required fees for the inmates that they have in there. But the real reality here is that, and I think the assessor alluded to it a couple sessions ago, they brought in some replacement taxes. Now, the difference was, and I didn't think they were good taxes because they were gross income taxes too, like property taxes. And what I mean by that is you pay your property taxes when you're making money or losing money for your business. That's a bad tax in my business. For me, it's a business thing, as a business person. That's a tough thing to do when you have a loss in a quarter and you got to pay your property taxes, your personal property taxes, that's tough. But the reality is we're going to raise our real estate property taxes. The counties will have to raise our real estate property taxes to try to compensate for the loss of property, personal property taxes. That's going to be bad for our seniors, bad for anybody on fixed income or middle income people that are all of a sudden going to see the real estate taxes on their house. They don't own a big car, but they own a car. They're going to save, a couple $100 here, but they're going to pay a couple thousand more here. That's not a good deal for them. What we should have done was replace those taxes with net income calculated taxes on the people who were going to save by getting rid of personal property taxes, the big manufacturers, the big out-of-state corporations. That would have leveled things out. But let me give you another side of it is we're giving up control. Harrison County citizens are giving up control of their tax money because we're taking it out of the Constitution. There was a reason it was put into the Constitution in 1933, because the counties wanted to control, the local governments wanted to control the finances because that's the people it's benefited. By taking it out of the Constitution, we're going to allow the legislators to now dictate whether or not we get any money for our budgets, whether the public schools get any money for our budgets. And I can assure you, when things are fat and good, they'll get the money. When things are bad, they'll be the first ones to get shot. And there will be favored counties and unfavored counties. And the favored counties will get more money and the unfavored counties will not. They'll figure out a way to push it over to them, and things are going to really change in the state. If this amendment passes, it's going to pass. They're going to dangle that that elimination of your motor vehicle tax out there, and everybody who wants to get rid of that tax, who hates paying it, I hate paying. They're going to vote for it. I'm not going to vote for it, but everybody else is, because you'll see that instant savings from the motor vehicle tax, not understanding what's coming down the road. So I think it's a bad deal the way they structured it. I think they could have sat down. We all could have sat down. I offered to sit down with them and come up with a replacement tax. I thought we could dedicate and raise the corporate net income tax a certain percentage to compensate for the loss of those personal property taxes. There's a myriad of other possibilities you could have done that would have been net income tax produced revenue, so that people only pay when they had a profit. And the majority just refused, and they passed this bill. And as the assessor said, there's no replacements for it once they eliminate them. So it's going to be an interesting few years coming up in the future for all the counties and for all the public school systems. I think it's a very dangerous route to take. I think it's going to fail. I just don't see how it can succeed, because you can't replace, what is the total? $190 million a year? No, $230 million a year. $230 million a year out of every county budget, out of every county public school budget. And you tack on top of that with the public schools, the charter schools that they passed, both internet and brick and mortar charter schools, that potentially could give away another 20% of their budget. We're destined for failure in the state. It turns out the way I think it's going to.
The way that it is, I mean, a lot of it, I don't feel like it's passed yet. I mean, there's still people out there, but the thing is, people are getting that carrot that it's going to do away with personal property vehicles, and that is not a definite thing that this bill does at all.
It's the unknown. We don't know that that's
It's
going
just-
to. Right.
This is possible. So what's going to happen to our office, they're going to be in there. When it doesn't do away with personal property vehicles, they're going to want to know what's going on. And when these counties, when the counties start to lose and have to raise taxes and do something, it's going to come from the county, not from the state. Correct? I mean, that's what, so the blame is going to be on you all and our office, because we had to raise taxes. It's not going to be on the state. So if it does pass, we have begged them to be a stakeholder in this. And that's been something that Mike has pushed, and some other senators and delegates, the counties have got to be involved here. But, I mean, and as Trump said, he wanted to amend it because they're not even saying exactly, when we run these numbers, we use what motor vehicles on the road, which was not an ATV, because it's not a vehicle on the highway. And it's just it's so open-ended on trying to figure out what is involved here. Our numbers could be very low. It could be worse.
And the other thing is going to make it tough. There's so much money at stake here for these big corporations. I mean, my office, I think my personal property tax is $1,100, $1,200 a year. I don't have a lot of personal property, computers, furniture, that kind of stuff. These big companies, you're talking about, millions of dollars, and they're going to spend the money to put on TV and to tell people to go out and vote for this thing. It's going to be difficult to educate the public exactly what they're giving up when they think they're going to save a few $100s, but it's going to cost them probably thousands.
Because that's all they're going to hear.
What's that?
That's all they'll hear is like, you're going to take away my car tax.
Yeah, that's all they're going to.
That's the Christmas tree light.
It's going to be like every other marketing ploy.
We just
They'll have
need to
a great-
work out a plan to get it out there.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks, Rocky.
Thank you, Rocky.
So basically, there's no action to be taken on that, just to acknowledge and try to
Just we
come
gotta
up with a
talk to
plan.
people
We
every
need
day.
to,
We gotta start.
get it
talking
out
to
there.
people every single day.
okay. And my understanding is 15 and 16.
Yes, if we could please table until next week. The intergovernmental agreement is not complete. We had some technical difficulties. So if we could just push that till next week, that way we have time to review it.
Motion to table 15 and 16.
Okay, motion's been made to table 15 and 16. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries. Number 17, administrators report.
I have a few things. The generator for the annex side is going to need to be replaced. It's so old, parts are not available anymore, so we're working on getting 3 bids for that. Generator for the courthouse side needed parts and it was fixed last week. I was off last week, so I'm playing catch up. Early voting starts on Friday for the levy. And the county clerk is looking for more poll workers. There's a post on the county clerk's Facebook page, and I will send out an email today, giving a little bit more details about that. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
When are we scheduled to discuss the settlement? With the attorney sentence for the appeal?
He has asked to be on the agenda for next week, so we can discuss it then
In executive session.
in executive session.
Okay. All we have.
Pass her out.
Number 18, commissioner comments. Mr. Nichols?
No, ma'am.
I have none.
Motion there.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you,
All in
Mayor.
favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you
None,
all.
motion carried.
Thank you, Rocky.